June 24th marks the first anniversary of what has become known as the Wagner Revolt or the Wagner insurrection. Wagner, of course, refers to the Wagner private military company, the creation of Yevgeny Prigozhin, an ally of Vladimir Putin. Wagner was founded in 2014 as a result of the fighting in the Donbass between Ukrainian nationalists who had come into power through the Maidan coup of February 2014, and Russian separatists and Russian patriots who rallied around the cause of ethnic Russians and Russian speakers in eastern Ukraine in the Donbass to fight against the cultural, ethnic genocide being waged by these Ukrainian nationalists. Wagner went on to expand its operations, fighting in Syria, in Libya, in Africa, in the Central African Republic, and later in Mali and Sudan and elsewhere. As a result, it developed a reputation for being a very professional, combat-savvy unit that garnered results on the battlefield. The fighting in Bakhmut in 2022, 2023 has gone down in history as some of the hardest fighting in the Ukrainian conflict, and the victory that was won by Wagner, became legendary in the minds of Russians and foreigners alike. But because of the insurrection, which basically boiled down to a personality conflict between Wagner founder Prigozhin and the then Russian Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu. It was about the survival of Wagner. Wagner was a private military contractor. When it was founded in Donbass, it was operating outside of the framework of Russian law set forth by the Russian Constitution, which prohibits the operation of private military contractors on Russian soil. Following the referendum of September 2022, of course, Donetsk, Lugansk, the Donbass became part of Russia, and Wagner legally wasn't allowed to exist. Shoigu offered Prigozhin an opportunity to absorb Wagner under the auspices of the Russian Ministry of Defense. But Wagner was more than just a fighting force. It was a business that made a lot of money for Yevgeny Prigozhin, and he was not inclined to give this business up. And so Prigozhin resisted, and this resulted in conflicts between himself and Shoigu that manifested themselves publicly. And later, in June 23-24 of 2023, the insurrection itself, where Prigozhin sought to put pressure on Russia to remove Shoigu and allow Wagner to remain as a private military contractor. As we now know, the revolt failed, and Wagner was disbanded, broken up. Prigozhin was exiled to Belarus and later to Africa. In August of 2023, he sought to return to Russia and was killed in an explosion on his aircraft that is believed to be involved weapons that were improperly stored by his security detail. But what about Wagner itself, this vast military enterprise? Thousands of fighters, some say tens of thousands of fighters that were operating in Ukraine were now unemployed. Many of them went to Belarus, where Wagner set up a training operation together with the Belarus military to train Belarus recruits on the reality of the modern battlefield in case Belarus were called upon to join the fighting against Ukraine, against NATO. Thousands more went to Africa, where they continued to operate in units that called themselves Wagner, but were being brought under the control of the Russian Defense Ministry. Today, what was Wagner in Africa is now known as the Africa Corps. It operates directly under the Russian Defense Ministry and is now involved in carrying out operations throughout Africa in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Central African Republic, Libya, and Sudan. So, the Wagner hasn't gone away. It's just been relabeled, this time as part of the Russian Defense Ministry. Most recently, the the first assault group of Wagner, the about 3,000 elite fighters who were responsible for the capture of Soledar and Bakhmut, led by a legendary fighter who goes by the call sign Robotar, have joined with the Akhmat forces. Abdi Aludanov, the commander of the Akhmat forces in the Donbass, announced that Robotar and his 3,000 fighters would be incorporated into the Akhmat forces, enhancing the combat capabilities of that unit. So Wagner is very much alive and well and living. The fighters, the professionals who served in Africa, who served in Ukraine, who served in Syria, continue to serve Russia. But this time they serve Russia under the auspices of the Russian Defense Ministry, under the auspices of the Russian National Guard, as part of Russia, not just Russians working for a business. They're now defending the Russian motherland as Russian soldiers. And they continue to hold a legendary, heroic posture in the mindset of the Russian people, and they continue to participate and contribute to the Russian cause in Ukraine.